Welcome to AI for You. Today's use case is all about using AI to build a custom GPT that can act as an institutional style guide checker. Now, you do need to have the paid version of ChatGPT, either the Plus, Teams, EDU, Enterprise, or Pro versions. But the thing is that one paid account can create the checker and refine it, and then it can be shared across your institution for anyone with a free account to use. So this prompt that will be found in the show notes creates a great tool that will not only check your writing against your brand style guides, but it will also highlight the changes needed and explain why they're being recommended. So not only is it helping to check your style, but it's helping teach people why those changes are being recommended. So this has been a helpful tool to make our editors' jobs easier. In this episode, we're talking with Catherine Thomas and Musa Ismail from Campus Threads. And we're exploring how AI is transforming student ambassador programs. Now, if you already have a student ambassador program, you'll appreciate how they're leveraging AI to optimize their platform. And if you don't have an ambassador program, hopefully this episode will help you discover the value that one can deliver. Welcome to AI for You, the go-to podcast for higher ed professionals looking to integrate AI into their daily work. I'm your host, Brian Piper, the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester. Join me every other Thursday for practical uses of AI within higher education communications, marketing, and student engagement. We'll focus on ways to quickly integrate AI into your teams to increase your efficiency and effectiveness and help you optimize your workflows and processes. I'll interview experts and feature relevant use cases with the goal that every episode gives you at least one thing you can take away and start leveraging in your job today. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Well, thank you, Moose and Catherine, for joining me on the show. It's great to see you both.
Hi, we're happy to be here.
Pleasure. Big fan of the pod.
Excellent. So I am a huge fan of ambassador programs. I think that, it's really an untapped resource for most schools, most campuses. So tell our listeners a little bit about Campus Threads and how your ambassador program works, and specifically how it integrates AI, because there are institutions out there doing ambassador programs, either internally or thinking about doing them. But I think your insights could be really helpful from an AI adoption standpoint.
Sure. So I can start just by talking about how Campus Threads came to be. It came to be after market research was conducted around North America about a need for more student ambassador programs and more equitable access to student ambassador programs. Through the market research, the team saw that there was such a power in schools adopting ambassador platforms, but sometimes there's an affordability issue. So that's really what we're trying to address, is regardless of your school size and school budget, that you can have access to the power of ambassador programs. So the way that Campus Threads works is very similar to any other student ambassador program. A student will visit your website and a pop card will pop up, which enables prospective students to click on and choose an ambassador to chat with. Chat about whatever questions they have, student life, program, admission requirements, and that type of thing. And then through that back and forth dialogue, conversations are extracted using AI and presented in a dashboard format for admins to go in and look at and be able to use to hone their recruitment and marketing strategy. So that's basic functionality of student ambassador programs. But one thing that makes, on top of, that functionality, one thing that makes Campus Threads really cool and unique is that once the chat gets rolling, if the ambassador thinks that maybe another subject matter expert needs to get involved, they can tag another person to join the chat, or they can triage within that platform, which I haven't seen any other ambassador platforms do. And obviously, questions that students have are so diverse. Maybe you need to have more people involved. So that's one unique feature that we offer. Another one that I'm maybe most excited about because of my background is we've provided a solution to onboarding student ambassadors and managing training, which is all AI powered. Because onboarding ambassadors and training them, as someone who's worked leading teams in registrars' offices for a long time, I know that onboarding folks and making sure their training is always up and current is sometimes a struggle. But we've come up with a really cool solution that you could use AI in such a way that onboarding and training virtually becomes all generated and managed through AI. And administrators can disseminate changes to programs, changes to campus tour route maps, and even test that knowledge by generating quizzes using AI that takes like seconds to do. So that's a little bit about Campus Threads. And then Moose, I'll throw it over to you to add a little bit more about the AI piece.
Yeah. So as Catherine was saying, the core idea is that Campus Threads opens a fully managed channel between your ambassadors and your prospect students. Now, where does AI come into play? We try to use AI anywhere where there does not need to immediately be a human connection. So we're very deliberate about ensuring that this is just like not another AI chatbot. The communication between your ambassadors and your prospects is a human one, and that's important to us. But everything surrounding that to facilitate it, we feel can benefit from AI. We think that it exponentially increases as you add more ambassadors. And that's because more volume, more diversity yields more representation for your school, which results in a higher likelihood for your prospects to form, a personalized interaction with someone that they can resonate with. And so then the question becomes like, how do you scale your ambassadors without expending a bunch of resources to do that? There's nothing really else more prime for that job than AI. And that's because scaling these voices means, their communications need to be moderated. They all need to be trained. They all need to be well prepared to represent your school in a way that, conforms to guidelines, branding, et cetera. And it turns out AI can do all of that really well. If you can imagine like a prospect coming onto your like school site and then like an AI matchmaker connects them to an ambassador that they may resonate with. And then that ambassador has their own AI that they can consult with so they don't need to like be bugging school admins who are, time constrained. And then that AI also gives the ambassador suggestions for every incoming prospect message, like right in the conversation, which makes it easier and quicker to have that, like those relevant pieces of information to serve those prospects in real time. And so they can take those suggestions, come up with something authentic that incorporates their firsthand experiences. And then as they're doing that in the background, AI is moderating their chat to ensure nothing that they say, which may be out of line, ever makes it through to the prospect and vice versa. So collectively just means that AI can drive the marginal effort and resources required to onboard and then manage ambassadors down to zero. So it's as simple as them like signing up to Campus Threads. And then now you have this self-sustaining system where the ambassadors themselves also aren't spending too much of their time either. They're just focused on those human connections. And this is what we mean when we say like AI really allows you to scale your ambassador program because you have the same amount of resources, but now wider, more diverse representation in your ambassadors, which means more prospects that can resonate with those voices, which means more incoming students feeling like they can belong there long before they even step foot on campus, which drives summer meltdown. So that's the beauty of an AI-powered ambassador program.
Fantastic. And we know that incoming students are all looking for opportunities to connect with other people like themselves, right? They don't want to hear from me about why they should come to our school. They want to hear from other students. They want to hear from other people who they can see themselves, they can visualize themselves and connect with those people. But so many institutions know this and understand this. What do you think are the biggest obstacles that institutions face in adopting ambassador programs and particularly then looking to integrate those with AI to help reduce some of those overhead risks?
I think it's time constraints. And that's a very broad category, but to break that down even further, there's always reasons for lack of time. So all of us who have worked in higher ed know that sometimes there's true crises that require everyone to stop what they're doing and like pause and redirect to solve some complex issue. But in reality, from my experience, those are quite rare. A lot of times, I think what happens with time constraints is there's a lot of noise that's happening that distracts people from the true strategic work that it takes to do something like truly adopting AI. And you've talked about this on podcasts before, that you can use a chatbot, or, we've kind of gotten past just using ChatGPT as like a Google. So to really be forward thinking and to use Ambassador, or to use AI in a way that will really change the way recruitment works, you need a larger strategy to clear some of this noise. So say you're the manager of a recruitment team, or you're the team lead, and you attend a webinar about adopting AI. Or maybe you're listening to this podcast and you're learning about AI and thinking, this would be so great. We need to do this. You get permission from your senior leadership to do some research and come up with a strategy for adopting AI. So you're all psyched and ready to do this. And then you come in the next day ready to research, and there's noise and distractions happening around you. So maybe there's a new program that was introduced in a faculty that nobody was aware of. So now your comms needs to be updated and you need to share the information with all your staff. And all of these things are distracting you from this true work of learning how you can integrate AI within your strategy. So if you want to remove that obstacle of having time constraints, then I think management really needs to set the stage for clearing out that noise. And I don't think it needs to be anything earth-shattering. It could be creating a task force of a couple people that you think are forward-thinking and strategic and diverse, and just setting aside 2 hours a week for a month and giving them, like, no matter what happens, just stay in your room, do your research, come up with a strategy. In 4 weeks, we're going to meet and I'm going to protect your time to do this. And I think the payoff will be pretty massive if teams are able to do that. But it's hard to see the forest from the trees sometimes. And we get distracted so much by these little noises that if folks can really clear that away, then the payoff will be massive and short-term pain for long-term gain.
Completely agree. Catherine, you just gave a great example of one of the obstacles that deters institutions from adopting AI in the first place. And I'll mention one more here, and then I'll talk to ambassador programs specifically. But one common theme is the reluctance to introduce something that isn't completely understood yet. And you see this with every like major technology breakthrough that comes along. And I think that over time, that problem will kind of sort itself out as people start to use AI in their day-to-day, which is why I think it's really prudent for everyone to just start using and embracing it in their personal lives, professionally, et cetera, as much as possible, as soon as possible, because it's not going anywhere. So one way to address this, problem of it being misunderstood, I really believe the key is transparency. Transparency allows you to become more comfortable with it. So if AI is tasked with doing something, is it being transparent to you as a user about like what it's doing, how it's doing it, what it knows, like what information it has access to, et cetera. Like one example of this that we do is we train an AI based on conversations that ambassadors have with prospective students. And we have a dedicated place to clearly show the exact points that the AI is learning from the conversation in real time. So people don't have to like be in the dark about what the AI is exactly doing. So we feel that stuff like that really helps with adoptability. When it comes to ambassador programs in particular, one thing that I've seen get in the way is the way that teams are organized at schools. Sometimes you might see that a separate team or staff for events and campus tours are the ones that are managing the ambassadors, and no one else is really communicating with them. So the ambassadors are completely isolated from the team that's handling the marketing and the communications efforts. And because, of course, AI exists only virtually and not in any physical capacity, there's not even a possibility to leverage the gains of AI for the ambassadors, which are still just being thought of as, like these event personnel that are just there for like campus tours and stuff like that. So that's one thing. I think just virtualizing your ambassador program, which by the way, has a ton of other benefits, even outside of AI. And if you're not doing that right now, you could ask yourself that question. Is it because one team is in a silo and not collaborating enough with another team to make that happen? That could be one of the root causes.
So, Catherine, you talked about the importance of prioritizing AI integration, and I think there's a lot of different pockets within institutions of people who are enthusiasts about the technology, but it's difficult sometimes to elevate that to leadership and get them to understand the urgency around the technology. And I think that's a challenge that a lot of institutions are facing, setting up AI integration as a larger project. Lots of challenges to address there. I know we talk about that a lot on the show. And then Moose, your point to the fact that, people are hesitant to integrate things that aren't fully understood, and AI is like supercharges that, because even the engineers that are creating these tools don't really understand exactly how they work.
That's right.
So a lot of fear and concerns, from a training landscape, data security, privacy, all of these ethical and responsible issues. So I think, as you mentioned, transparency is really key to that, and letting people know what is AI and where is it being used and how is it being trained. So there are a lot of institutions that are, that already have, ambassador programs that they've got in place that they're working on. How can they start thinking about different ways that AI might be able to help them scale those or to help them kind of manage those? Because we know that, ambassador programs can be extremely time consuming. Like you said, just the training and the onboarding, and especially if it's, student ambassadors who are constantly in flux and they're leaving and coming in. And what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, no, you're exactly on point there. Management just becomes extra complex when you factor in the fact that a lot of these students have their own schedules with classes. Maybe, they're part-time students, full-time, coming and going. So yeah, training and onboarding is a huge area where there could be some, time-saving potential. So like we automate to generate training modules based on what the AI knows about the school. So you could say, hey, I want to evaluate my ambassadors to make sure that they understand this change in the tour route that I communicate to them. And then it'll come back with like a full assessment, make sure everyone is on board with making sure that they pass it, that they, all the answers are explained and stuff like that. And then you can kind of modify it to fit your needs. But another huge one is data. So just take a step back and just kind of mention the knowledge sources that we give to our AI, which any ambassador program could try to emulate as well. Again, with AI, as you know, like the more data, the more rich data, up-to-date data, the better. So we scrape the contents of the school's website. We give it all the information that the recruitment team or ambassadors have shared about the school to the prospects. So whether that's like via email or the chat widget, we also feed it all the information that the recruitment team has shared with the ambassadors themselves about the school via stuff like the announcements and other comms like within the platform. So that's the power of having everything under one platform, is that you get the benefit of all these like data sources to empower that AI's knowledge base. Everyone should be looking at, ways that they can, generate and produce their own data from their ambassadors, and thinking like, how can we capture as much of that as we can? Right? Because now with AI, analyzing that data to come up with actionable insights is as simple as one prompt, right? So if your ambassadors right now are chatting with prospects, do you have a way for them to report back on that feedback that they're hearing about preconceptions that students or parents have on the school, or concerns that they're raising or questions they're asking, right? If you're able to have a system that gets you that data, you can just throw that into AI and it can let you know how to better tailor your marketing efforts to be in line with what the ambassadors are hearing out there, because the chances are that they are actually things that the prospects are sharing with your ambassadors that they just aren't with you as, someone part of the recruitment team, just given kind of the difference in position or what have you. And just having someone that is, again, resonates with them more. So maybe they're just more comfortable voicing certain things to them subconsciously, and being able to keep your ear to the ground on that feedback unlocks a ton of insights that you may not have otherwise been able to know about. One thing you said, Brian, that I'll just paraphrase here. Yesterday it was all about looking more at your data, but today it's about letting AI look more at your data. That's because AI is just great at taking data and telling a story from it, which is what we really care about here. So
I'll just kind of add on top of like, if you have already the ability to see all of your data, maybe using AI or maybe just using those dashboards that your ambassador program shows you, if you're not already sharing that information with stakeholders, I think people should do that. My last role, I was logging into our student ambassador program every couple of weeks and seeing these awesome insights onto what students were talking about, who was logging in, where are they from, what questions do they have, and then you can theme that based on, is it fall? Is it admit to commit season? Is it summer where you're trying to keep students attracted and reduce summer melt? So what I did, because we didn't have a strategy on sharing this information across stakeholders, was I just created a newsletter in Canva and every 2 weeks sent out to the entire registrar's office screenshots of the data that I was seeing. It was all anonymized. It was just showing like major questions and where people were signing up for. So I sent that out to communications, recruitment, admissions, student services, financial aid, and they could see trends. When I created that in Canva, I didn't use AI to create my newsletter, but now I know I could just ask Canva to generate something with AI. But having the access to information as leadership is one thing, but giving your team the power to see that information and make changes to their strategy and their workflow is the second piece of it. Because if you're in leadership, you are just constantly going from one meeting to the next, to the next, to the next. And it's hard to really enact change with the data that you're seeing. So create a newsletter, share the information. As long as it's not something you need to keep under wraps or it's not confidential, I don't think there's any reason to keep it locked up. So that's an easy, actionable insight that folks can use right now, regardless of what kind of ambassador program they're using.
Yeah, I see that as a huge, I mean, we're always talking about the challenges of silos in higher ed, but there are so many opportunities once we start sharing information, and knowing that campus tours, ambassador programs, those are all marketing your institution. So if you don't have a good through line between your admissions and your marketing teams and, the campus tour, the ambassadors, you're losing a lot of, content ideas, insights into your, not only your student journeys, but we know that students are going to go on to become alumni, hopefully. And so now you've got to involve advancement into this conversation as well. Otherwise, you're just looking at your audiences as a particular point in their journey, and you should really be looking at the entire journey because that's who you're marketing to.
Yeah,
and that's how quickly things are changing now with the demands of what prospective students and families want from folks in higher education, to be able to move with them through those changes and react almost like, well, not almost, in real time is a superpower rather than typecasting folks and just regurgitating your recruitment strategy or your marketing strategy each year. So use these curated insights and these pieces of data to your advantage and move through the evolution of your prospect with them.
Exactly. Yeah. I think like the more diversity of perspectives, the better it's going to be, right? You mentioned, Brian, like the different types of personalities, whether it's alumni, we think of like faculty, we think of staff. Every single person is going to give a unique perspective that's going to help that prospect. We think of all those different people as ambassadors. We don't just think of student ambassadors. Ambassadors are anyone that are representing your school. So absolutely agree.
Yeah. Basically anyone who has any sort of touch point with students, whether it's through content or through direct interaction, they have the opportunity to influence that student's perception of the brand of your institutions. So I always talk to people about the future of AI, how things are going to continue to evolve. We know the landscape is changing very rapidly. I used to ask people for, where AI is going to be in 3 years. I think that's way too forward thinking. Over the course of the next year or so, where do you see AI going? And specifically, how do you think that's going to impact higher ed, ambassador programs, marketing, those sorts of things?
Yeah. So I'm a very, like, you can call me like a tech enthusiast. I'm usually like a first adopter of a lot of things. And so what I'm actively seeing right now is the unleashing of agentic AI in particular. I'm seeing a lot of different software tools coming out that really try to capture these workflows and really try to give the AI autonomy to carry out the set of tasks that are encapsulated by those workflows. And I just see no other way forward other than agentic AI. I think is just a natural progression. So yeah, that's the next year. And, like you mentioned, it's hard to understand what the next couple or few years have in store for us. But that's what I kind of see in the horizon right now.
And I guess, like, going off of what you just said, Moose, if there are folks in higher education who are not really embracing AI, then it will be interesting to see in the next year or two how they match up to their competitors who are embracing AI. Because if you are able to embrace AI and kind of move with the ebbs and flows of how it's evolving and then use it to your advantage to make you be able to work more strategic and smarter, then you'll be able to come up with way more creative things because you're not bogged down with your administrative load of whatever you've outsourced to AI, and you will be probably much further ahead than some of your competitors. So I'm interested in just keeping an eye on the landscape and trying to tie that back to, okay, what sorts of AI are you using? Do you have a comprehensive AI system for your prospect journey and your student journey once you become registered? Or is it siloed between you have this faculty using this department using this? So the early adopters who have a really robust system from prospect to graduation, I think the creative endeavors that will unleash will be really exciting to see. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I always finish my conversations with people asking them, what are the kind of specific use cases that are the most helpful to you in your day-to-day job right now?
Yeah, I love this question. I code pretty much every day. And so having an AI co-pilot right there by my side, just auto-completing blocks of code, which is really like auto-completing thoughts in my head, which is pretty amazing. That has catapulted my productivity by orders of magnitude. And it's actually allowed our team to stay much more lean, which it's translated to, an overall, like we've been able to offer our software at a cheaper cost. And a big part of that is about how efficient AI has made the development cycle for us. So that's been great for us.
I think, like, for me, thinking about using AI, my work really, I need to be creative and forward thinking in what I do. So I always try to keep myself in a really positive mind frame. And I've recently started using certain prompts in ChatGPT to curate my own news feed every day. Because what I was finding was I would get my highlights in the morning and it would put me in a little bit of a certain way. And then I just kind of had a light bulb moment one day thinking, this is a curated algorithm that other forces external to me and what my desires and what my goals are feeding me, that is impacting my ability to do my job in a creative, positive way. And so I just started using prompts like, give me the top 3 news stories from around the world involving animals. And it puts me in such a lighthearted mood and reminds me that there is a lot going on in the world that is positive, and it's not just what is being fed to you in these algorithms in your news feed. So there doesn't have to be a complicated way, I don't think, of using AI, but just using it to put yourself in the right frame of mind to go forth in your job to do, the best you can.
That's a great news hack. I love that. Can't thank you enough for coming on the show, both of you, and sharing your insights. If people want to reach out to you, if they want to stay in touch and follow you, what are the best ways to do that?
It's got to be LinkedIn. I think it's /campus threads, all one word. You can find me there, Mustafa Ismail.
Yeah, you can reach us on LinkedIn or our website, campusthreads.co. And then you could book a demo. You can just request information and see anything that you want to see about our product. But if you want to just engage in any conversations, then yeah, we're pretty active on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again both so much for your time. And, I really think ambassador programs, communities are huge untapped resources in higher ed. So I love what you're doing. I love the way that you're integrating AI to make it really more personalized and practical for the students. Thanks.
Thank you. This
Thanks
was
for
fun.
having us on, Brian. Appreciate it.
This conversation with Catherine and Moose really highlights how AI can enhance human connections rather than replace them in student recruitment. What really stands out is their philosophy of using AI strategically, anywhere where there does not need to be immediately a human connection. So allowing your student ambassadors to focus on those authentic human interactions. Their insights about breaking down silos through data sharing are particularly valuable for higher ed institutions where departments often operate independently in their own silos. So by using AI to analyze ambassador conversations and sharing those insights widely, schools can create a more cohesive experience from prospect to graduate and onto alumni. I was really impressed by their approach to implementation. Start with small steps, create newsletters to share insights. It doesn't require a complete organizational transformation. So basically, you're making AI accessible for any institution, even with limited resources or technical expertise. As we look at the evolving landscape of higher education, where resources and funding are becoming more scarce, we're expected to continually do more with less. We need to be thinking about how technology can amplify what makes institutions special. And that's those human connections and authentic experiences that ultimately drive student success and student decisions. Please reach out to me with unique ways that you're integrating AI into your professional and personal lives. And as always, blue skies and keep creating. Thank you for listening to another episode of AI for You. I hope you found at least one useful thing you can take away and start adding to your workflows and processes today. Remember, the key to making the most of AI is to keep experimenting, keep learning, and of course, keep creating. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Kadu, Day Kibbles, Shane Baglini, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.